Hello, welcome to Triggered Care. I'm Alex. Today I'm going to be going over the attachment styles that were in that paper that I made a parentification video about. So this is a continuation of that paper article, just going into the different attachment styles. I'll link the article below. So let's get into it. Now in the paper she brings up 3 attachment styles and then a sort of attachment style at the end that was added much later. So we'll go through the first 3 main ones, and then I'll also tell you about the one that might be added, which I'm a little bit confused about, and you'll see why. Alright, so first attachment style we will be talking about today is insecure avoidant attachment style. And this is where caregivers are emotionally unavailable and unresponsive to child's needs, and children appear prematurely independent and consistently avoid contact with the caregiver. So, putting that in plain English, that sounds a lot like neglect, where the parents or the caregivers, whoever is in charge of taking care of the child, is not paying attention to their needs, either purposely or because they are so sick, like the caregiver is so sick, either physically or mentally, that they can't pay attention to the child's needs. Next is insecure resistant attachment. That's where caregivers are inconsistently available and whose behavior towards child is unpredictable. And with that, children display ambivalence in actions towards caregivers, both seeking and resisting contact. So this one looks like it's not pure neglect like the first one is, but it is unpredictability with how parents will react. And that makes sense that the child parent role, or the child parent relationship, would be like a roller coaster of having extreme feelings of wanting to reach out for your parent and then also wanting to retract from your parent as well, since there's so many mixed signals and mixed connections in that sort of attachment. So continuing on to secure attachment. Caregivers emotionally available and responsive to child's needs. Children find comfort with caregivers, which allows the child to explore the world. You know, it gives the child a sense of safety where they feel free to go explore the world instead of trying to figure out parent stuff, which I think is a lot of the points here. Is there's a lot of stress that a child will go through if they do not have a secure attachment. So those 3 were like the main ones that she brought up, you know, that are more established, the subsets of attachment types. And then she brought up this last one that I think was added later, but you can always check the article to make sure that I'm remembering that right. And it's called disorganized attachment. Caregivers are abusive or neglectful, so children exhibit disoriented behavior that lacks coherent stance toward the caregiver. And it also signifies significant interpersonal deficits. Now, why this one confused me a little bit, because neglectful, I feel like that was the very first attachment thing that we talked about. But I think this is maybe explaining the margins of error with that for children who don't fall into those sorts of symptoms with that sort of attachment. Or maybe it's just adding the abusive part, because the other 2 don't really talk about abuse that much. So that could be it too. And then children exhibit disoriented behavior that lacks coherent stance. So that sounds like the second one, though, doesn't it? That sounds like insecure resistant attachment, where they're seeking the parent and getting away from the parent, But I guess it doesn't mean that either. It just means disoriented behavior. And it's not really talking about their motivation to see or not see their parent. So I'm not sure. But I think with all of them, you could put signifies significant interpersonal deficits, except for the secure one, of course. Which, if we all had secure attachments, I don't think that we'd be looking up all this information and trying to figure out what insecure attachment does to you. But and then in the paper, she goes into how there's not enough research for subtypes to really draw conclusions from parentification into the subtypes of parenting, and how they split it up just from secure versus insecure attachments. And then she goes into a little bit about the problems with the lack of research and the problems with just trying to conduct the research in fields like this. And then she did mention something very interesting that made something click for me. She mentioned that with parentification, when it comes to the same-sex parent, so a daughter and a mother, or a father and a son, it can impair the child's relationships with their same-sex peers because they're using that relationship model from the same-sex parent to try and communicate and try to interact with their peers, their same-sex peers, which... Just side ramble for just a little bit. When I was a kid, I very much made friends with boys way easier than girls. I had a lot of boyfriends, and not romantic boyfriends. When I say boyfriends and girlfriends, I mean it in a platonic way. Just the way that my grandma used to talk got stuck in my brain. But I had a lot of boyfriends, and I had a hard time making girlfriends and keeping girlfriends. And I think part of it was I was just super intimidated by women because my mother's a very intimidating woman. But that really stuck out to me, and it made me think about that a bit. So yeah, it also says that, fathers are less likely to parentify, but that's getting more into the parentification side of things rather than attachment, but attachment very much is tied into parentification as well. Because obviously if you have a secure attachment with your parent, if they do use you as instrumental parentification uses, helping out with making meals and helping out with money and stuff, you're not going to feel horrible about it if you have that secure attachment with them, if they meet your emotional needs and if they meet your physical needs, and then you do have to help them out for a bit. I don't think it's crushing, and it doesn't mean that you stop your own emotional needs. You know what I mean? Like, you're not stunting your own progress, your own growth in order to meet the parents. You're just adding work onto a healthy body and being like, all right, my mom really needs help right now. I want to help her out. That's way more healthy than being expected to do it since childhood with no recognition and no love to be had for the work that you put into the family. So that's my little video about attachments and the different sorts of attachments. I'll link the paper that it's from down below. If you want another video on attachment stuff, let me know. This stuff is pretty interesting. And the article that I read was really, really good. So I figured I'd share more of it with you. All right, I'm going to stop rambling now. There are Discords down below, Facebook down below, email down below. All those fun things for you to reach out to me if you want to, or you can always comment down below. And I hope y'all have a good one.